Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and last night we got episode 5 of season 2 of The Last of Us, and I think this was another really solid episode. I'm actually really enjoying what they're doing here. I feel like, yes, with the inclusion of more infected, more of that horror element with this whole season, I feel like it's just running on all cylinders. Like, it's just doing it for me, like every episode. Like, you got your drama, your personal growth, you got like all this stuff happening with lore building with the wolves, and then the scars, the seraphites, whatever, and then you also still got your horror elements where they go into a dark building and then they turn on a flashlight and they're like, oh shit, there's like 4 of them over there, I'm loving this season so far. And I know there's a conversation out there, some people, I've seen it, a handful of people still are, they're feeling like a void was left with the death of Joel. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm okay with the way things are. I feel like Ellie and Dina can carry this show, and I know that there's supposed to be like a season 3. And I'm even starting to suspect that because we have not yet, and I think we only have, 2 episodes left after this, we have not yet seen anything from Abby's perspective at all. I'm imagining now that that's going to be all of, or at least most of, what season 3 is. Because right now, Abby is still like this thing that we saw once and then disappeared. Very much like Ellie, right? So like, we're being put in the same shoes as Ellie is. Whereas like, we saw her, she was introduced, and now she's just like this specter that's haunting us in the back of our minds. And we're like, where are we gonna find this girl? Just like how Ellie is at the end of this episode. Where is she? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this was just another really, really solid episode. Basically, they gotta find their way to get to the hospital, right? And so they cut through a building, and there's a bunch of infected in there, and it is pretty cool. They have like the actually, hold on, let me rewind. Sorry, there was something that happens. There's another flashback. I don't know if they specified what year this was, but basically this is the wolves earlier in their past. We see the same lady that Isaiah met. I don't remember what her name was, but we see her. She's still in charge, and I believe in the present day Isaiah is in charge and she's no longer around. So I think we're gonna figure out exactly what happened there. But anyways, I think this is still in the past, and they've done something kind of fascinating here, where basically they say that, like, all right, some of the original infected from 2003 were put down here in the basement of this hospital, and they sent some people down there to go check out the basement levels, and they're like, it's in the air, and then sure enough, by the end of this episode, we see that there are spores now being grown from these, like, I guess these are like some of the original infected people. These are like, they've been here since then, and so they've been here for so long that they're growing up against the walls, and they are breathing out spores. And the cool thing about this is that, if you don't know, in the video game, spores in the air are how the infected originally grew. This whole idea in the show where, like, the bites are what causes, like, the fungus to, like, go into the bloodstream of the other person. I mean, I guess it's still true in the game, but that's not the main way it works. Especially not like this thing where, like, oh, if you touch one of the tendrils of the fungi, it'll, like, connect to the hive mind way over there or something like that. Like, in the game, it's all just spores, and so you go through these sections where, like, you gotta put a mask on. So them introducing that so late into the show, it's a really cool idea, especially now that they can kind of, like, eat within the context of the world, still make it make sense as to why we haven't seen it yet, because now they're saying that, like, the spore breathing is something that only happens when you're really old, which also kind of implies, especially with some of the sneaky ones, I don't remember what they're called, some of the sneaky infected ones who hide and, like, climb stuff, it's implying that like as time goes on, this infection is going to keep evolving into different forms, you know, which is just really cool, you know. So treating the spores as something that like you eventually do turn into, and spores will be a thing. That's a really cool way for the show to do that, especially because we kind of have to have that moment when Nora is being chased down and she realizes that Ellie is infected. So I don't know, it was cool they were still able to make that happen in the show by introducing that as a new thing, instead of something that was always supposed to be there. So I don't know, I like that a lot. Anyways, basically they're trying to get through these buildings. They're trying to get all the way to, I forget where it was. Are they trying to get to the hospital? Yeah, I think so. But anyways, they got to go through this building. There's this really awesome sequence where they try to they try to go through it at night. They're sneaking around, and there's a bunch of those sneaker ones, right? The stalkers. I think they're called stalkers. Anyways, they immediately, they're like, okay, don't use gunfire unless it's absolutely necessary. We're gonna use knives. There's probably only like 1 or 2 in there. We'll probably be fine. And of course, immediately it all goes wrong, and they end up getting rescued by Jesse. And so we learn that Jesse and oh my god, what's his name? Is it Billy? I don't know. And Joel's brother, god damn it, Tommy. I could not remember his name. Jesse and Tommy have been following the girls because they left the very next day once they realized they were gone. And this does kind, you know, I'm glad Tommy's out there, right? And I'm sure we'll see him either next episode or the one after that. It does kind of change it to where he's not out here on his own revenge mission, but I think that could flip. I think the second that, like, oh, you're already out here, maybe once he sees how close they are to the people that killed Joel, maybe he does kind of run off on his own and go like full Rambo revenge man, you know. I think that's totally possible still to happen, and this was a cool way to do that, you know. In the game, Tommy left first, and you're kind of following in his footsteps, and you'll just come across some of the damage that was left behind after he went through. So I think this is still a cool way to make that happen. It's just kind of happening in reverse. We also see some more of the Seraphites in the woods. So I guess there's a parked off area where the wolves do not go. And it's a terrifying sequence because they all light up their torches, and they're all like shooting arrows, and you can't see where anything is, but somehow like they can see you in the dark. I don't know. But yeah, terrifying sequence. They hang one of the wolves. They show how they do their rituals, and they gut them, and you know, just crazy cult stuff going on. So like we're being chased by the wolves. We're being chased by the Seraphites. We see stalkers. And now we're introduced to spores. This episode just had everything. But anyways, Ellie eventually does find Nora, and it very much plays out like how it does in the game. Like, she starts to run, and she chases her down, and she's yelling like, hey, there's an intruder, shoot this girl, right? And Ellie manages to escape past all of them. They go down to the basement level where no one is willing to go. And of course, Nora's stuck there, and she realizes that she's been breathing in spores. And then she sees the truth that, like, oh, you really are immune. You're breathing in this stuff like it's no problem. So Ellie grabs a pipe and she starts just beating Nora with it, trying to ask, like, where's Abby at? And you know, there's definitely a lot of that, like, Ellie becomes Abby kind of thing. It's just that sort of, like, you know, revenge twisting in on itself. You know, these two girls out for revenge, and then one got their revenge, and now, you know, it's just like that cyclical nature of everything. And you kind of turn into the person that you're hunting, right? Like, she's gonna become Abby, or at least how Abby was in that moment. Now she is that. So yeah, a lot of commentary there. Pretty cool, thematically. So yeah, I don't know, just a really solid episode. We do see that we're gonna have a little bit of a flashback. We saw Joel there at the end where Ellie wakes up, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the spaceship moment. You know, where they're gonna go to the museum, and she's gonna envision this whole like NASA launch, and her fascination with space travel. And I think this is probably also where we'll get the Eugene stuff, because we know that there's still like a lingering mystery as to like exactly what happened there. I think a lot of us are kind of assuming that, like, okay, so they're out on a patrol, Eugene finds out that she is immune, Joel feels like he has to kill that guy, so he does, and then I guess, Ellie gets mad at Joel for doing that because it's just like what happened at the hospital. And I'm assuming that's what's gonna happen. Maybe I'll be surprised and there's actually a completely different reason why he ended up killing Eugene, but I guess we'll have to see. But it is cool to see Pedro back. I know, we knew there was going to be flashbacks. I don't think this is for the people who are like struggling to keep interested in the show because Joel's not there. I don't know. This happened with the games too. I feel like there were certain people who they got so attached to Joel and his story that like they're like, well, if he's not the main character, then how can there even be a thing? Like, which I don't know. I've never really felt that way, to be honest with you. Like I guess I just kind of always like, I was like, well, that's what this world is, like there is no main characters here. These are just people, so I feel like there's definitely parts of this story, both in the games and in the show, that like certain people are reading it differently. They're kind of reading like, and I guess my thing is like, if you watch movies like just, well, anything similar to this, like, yeah, your people die, like even your main characters, like that's just what happens in these worlds. So I don't know, it just, for me, it seems a little strange that people were not prepared for this, or maybe it is just because I've had how many years to know that Joel is gonna die, and like I'm just before the show even started I was like, okay, I wonder when they'll do that, so for me it's just not even a big deal. But I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm so happy that they amped up the infected moments. I feel like that was really the only thing missing from the first season, and now here it's like we get to see how they, how quickly things go wrong when they come across something that they don't fully understand. And I am wondering how the spores are going to come back into this, because for this to be a new thing that has never happened before, I have to imagine they're, this is going to cause problems down the road, right? Or is it just going to be isolated to this basement, because if it does take like, oh, it has to be someone who's been infected for 30 years or something, maybe it is only isolated to those very remote places. And that does kind of make me ask what's gonna happen with a certain other creature that we come across in the games. I wonder how they're gonna, what's the logic gonna be behind that one? I'm wondering. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But it's gonna be a cool moment when that happens. I don't know if that'll happen this season or not. But anyways, I think we only have 2 episodes left, or 3 episodes left, something like that. Either way, I'm enjoying what we're doing. I can kind of see where we're gonna stop in the story here, and I don't know if season 3 is meant to be the final season. I feel like it should be. I don't know how much more, if you're splitting this in half, I think that's about all the stuff, all the story you can squeeze out of that one game. So unless they give us another game, I think, we're mostly through the show. We got like one more season and then that'll be it. I am curious how that next season's going to go, though. If that next season, as I suspect, is going to be very Abby focused and we're going to see a lot of it from her point of view, I think that's definitely where it's gonna feel like, okay, now it just feels like we're watching a different show, like we're basically starting over with a new main character and new, just a whole new group. And I guess in that one, Ellie will be the one who kind of feels like the specter that you hear about every once in a while and maybe shows up like only a couple times, because she's hunting Abby down, and we're seeing this all from Abby's perspective. I don't know. Could be pretty interesting. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let me know where you think this this season's gonna end story wise. I do feel like I should probably play the second game again because there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh right, they go through the woods. Oh right, the hospital. You know, like and I know I can remember like key moments that happened in the story, but there's definitely a lot of sections that I don't remember because it's been so long since I played it. But yeah, I'm gonna try to play the game again. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.